What do we mean when we say social entrepreneurship?
It's not enough to have an idea, you have to actually know what the steps are to put that idea into practice.
In a way, you're teaching creativity.
It's really closely linked to innovation, yeah.
Kenda, start us off by just explaining what this is. What do we mean when we say social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, social entrepreneurship is kind of a way of understanding the entrepreneurial enterprise as being something that's about more than just making money. It's about making a social impact. Sometimes it's called impact entrepreneurship, way of making a difference in the community for the good of people as well as for the good of profit. The way churches have gotten interested in it has to do with mission a lot of the time. Sometimes it's a way of helping make mission more sustainable. Sometimes it's a way of churches understanding themselves as being more financially sustainable themselves as congregations, but a lot of times it has to do with how they're making an impact in the community in a way that is not going to be a drain on the community, in a way that's not going to be a drain on the budget. It's a way of helping be an asset to the community and not just a financial burden on the community. So it's a new way of thinking about both the financial model of ministry and a way of thinking about the impact you make in the community too.
It seems to me as I've watched some of these classes and some of your activities on campus unfold that in a way, you're teaching creativity. I mean,
it's really closely linked to innovation, yeah.
Innovation.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the programs that I've seen you lead. You have Shark Tanks and Hatchathons. What's going on with those?
Well, sometimes we just borrow them for the fun of it, to be able to kind of borrow some of the energy that comes from that. But when we closed one of our classes with a Shark Tank in order to try to get some of the energy that was around the TV show for presenting an idea, and also to be able to get students to be able to have a concise way of presenting an idea in a way that was actionable, right? So that it wasn't just kind of a vague idea, that they actually had an action plan to be able to put their ministry into practice. And that included a financial plan that went with that, as well as certain steps that they had to take and actually to implement the ministry, as well as just to think about sort of the general principles that the mission had. So that's where the Shark Tank came from. The Hatchathons are helping students walk through step by step what it takes to actually go from concept to implementation.
Give us a couple of illustrations of some of these projects.
Well, some of the things that came out of the Shark Tank last year were, we had one group that was really thinking in terms of macro economics, and they had a great plan to try to solve some of the problems that have to do with payday loans, taking advantage of people. And so they wanted to help coach people on how to work with their money. And congregations would help folks who were in financial difficulty get better financial advice. Then that went all the way to an after-school program that was being offered here at the seminary.
And I remember standing in line at a food truck for one of your students.
Yeah, we
put
had
together. Tell us about that.
A couple years ago, we had a student who part of her dream was to work with young adults on campuses, but also to take some of those young adults to homeless shelters to serve them as well. And together they provided a food truck with actually great egg sandwiches and donut holes. So,
as a new means of evangelism.
It's kind of a front door evangelism for students that don't have much contact with churches. Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell us something that you dream about. What would you like to do next?
So we've got to figure out ways to prepare folks to be in leadership in Christian communities that may or may not look like congregations as we know them now. Right. And I think that's going to take a lot of small experiments. So what does it look like to be a Christian leader that doesn't go into a community that looks like something that we expect, but is willing to experiment with lots and lots of kinds of Christian communities and try things and then bounce back and try something else and bounce back. We're in an entrepreneurial moment in the church, but also in our culture at large. And we have to learn how to fail well, because failure is how you learn. It's the pivot moment that counts.
Sure.
And I think that's a learning skill that
Yeah.
is what we're about.